here for the final of today, where we're going to send one more winner into the winner's circle and one person into the loser's pod. So let's get down to that matchup.
All right, we're getting in here to the final match of the evening here. This is week number 2, and based off of our theme for the week, we've got Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3 Revisited, playing a pseudo-conquest style tournament. These are the last decks that are left out of our players here. It's Jeskai versus Jeskai. Let's go.
Yeah, so how does this go? We just go land, go, flage, ring, flage, go, flage, win? Or
this is that you kind of stepped it in there. I will say off the top here, right? Looking at the cards in the hand here, Javier's got a very interesting list. They're both of these players are playing Javier's list, so it's the exact 75 card mirror. Subtlety and Force of Negation are great 0 mana options to sort of interact on the stack, allowing players to get a little bit proactive while also holding shields up. Notably, the hand right now doesn't look very, very interactive for Dingo's side outside of the invert polarity. Meanwhile, Mason has access to cards to Fairy, and then, should that not resolve, he does have a copy of Force of Negation to continue playing.
So that polarity card, man, is that a fun card to play? Man, does that card suck to play against? When I'm casting my big spells and they're just like, well, I'm either going to counter it or I'm going to take it myself. And in this matchup, it could be something like the One Ring or even a Teferi. It could just be game breaking there and then, right?
Yeah, I think the fact that you can flip a coin and literally steal your opponent's spells. This interaction is especially relevant against cards that typically can't be countered either by like Cavern of Souls or natively like Emrakul. This is something that Blue has just not had access to in a long while, and especially when in this matchup, you're only ever really tapping out for haymakers like Teferi Time Raveler or the One Ring. If you ever win the coin toss, oh my God, it's just game over on the spot.
Here we go. Let's flip that coin. Is that going to resolve, or are we going to steal this? Okay, it's gone. It's in the graveyard. It's still good. We can't let that resolve, especially in sort of a control match where we've got so much counter magic, plus instant speed ways to cast things like Subtlety, as we see in the hand here for YungDingo. But now the shields are down, so to speak. Do you think he's going to fire off this One Ring?
I think you don't really have a choice here. You've got nothing else going on. You could try to hold up a hard cast Subtlety, but the amount of threats, in this mirror, Subtlety is not exactly good except against the Planeswalkers. We're not talking about Narset. We're just talking about Teferi. So we're going to see the dance here. It's basically, like, I don't know, Cobblade mirrors, except your spells are a little bit more expensive now. Looks like Mason is actually going to resolve a copy of the One Ring, and now he is extremely ahead. But as soon as I say that, here comes Teferi.
Yeah, so dream scenario here, Teferi, tick down, bounce ring, draw counter spell, pass turn, right? It's got to be, because we really see that there's a good chance that ring is going to come back down the turn after. Or do we value it so much that we want to tick up Teferi to leave it around? We didn't get the counter spell, but now I suppose Mason, I want to go back, in fact, 2 turns ago, when Mason played the One Ring, decided not to play the land first, could have left up red mana for Galvanic Blast in case anything was cast. Obviously, wouldn't have been able to do it once Teferi was on the battlefield, but deciding to have the advantage of, if I draw a fetch land off my One Ring, I can play that for my turn and use the Survey ability, which we've seen do so much work, just not only tonight, but in Modern in general.
Yeah, I think the way it was explained to me is that it's basically a consider that you can cast or choose not to cast, and it will always draw you a land. And that's just very powerful, right? Always being able to, when you look at it in that frame or in that through that lens, the card gets a lot better. But we're gonna get a Hallowed Fountain here, and we're gonna continue playing this game. And it looks like Mason is actually light on land drops here, and we're still at the point where it's not that big of a deal. But if Dingo is able to get a couple more lands in play while Mason is in trouble, you could actually start casting multiple value spells, power spells in the same singular turn, and that's going to be a deciding point in the game.
What do you think about Mason saying to go with the Flage that turn instead of the One Ring? Are we doing that for, value? I made this card, so I'm going to try and kill you with it?
He is the father of Flage,
That's what I mean. We all know he's the father of Flage. For people that don't know, that is Mason's cards that he pitched when he was working in the test group for MH3. He pitched this card, stats, abilities, everything, and nothing got changed. This is 100% his card and his design. And right now, he's going to get 100% punished by doing this route. As we're going to see this subtlety coming down, you just remove 5 cards from your graveyard to maybe put this back on top of your deck.
I mean, I really like the idea here from Mason, right? His idea is like, I'm going to play this Flage. It's coming from my graveyard. It functionally doesn't cost me a resource, but then, like in this instance, this is the exact case where, subtlety is a card that also generates value when you hard cast it and you put it into play and you handle a creature that way. So Mason came in with like the punch, but then Dingo had the tools to sort of defend himself. And now we're going to see the follow-up here, which is, here's my copy of the One Ring, and you don't have a blue card for your Force of Negation. And I drew Counterspell. Oh, gosh.
And we hit the counterspell. I do want to know, because, you're a man that has cast his fair share of counter magic, let's say. What sort of counterspells do you use in when you're playing on MTGO?
Oh, it's OG. It's the OG art for everything, especially Counterspell, right? Pay homage to the history of Magic.
Okay, no, I love it. I love to see it, and that's one of the obviously the huge advantage you got from MTGO, that you can just kind of play whatever art you want. You can mix it however you need to. There's every art is basically on here. I do like to go for the fancy.
You're telling me that Mason chose that artwork for the One Ring? That's what I'm picking up from what you're putting down.
Dude, I own 4 copies of that ring in paper that I got signed at MagicCon 2 weeks ago. That is my art of my One Ring.
The next time I come to your place, I'm gonna bring some salt and pepper. I'm gonna cook that thing medium rare, and I'm gonna eat your One Rings. I like the regular. I'm just gonna say that's just me. I don't know. Before someone says bet. Speaking of bet, here it is. Flage finally in play.
Hold on. What if Mason loses to Flage? Do you know how much Dingo will never let him live that down?
I mean, not even Dingo. I won't let him down. That would be poetic justice. We'll put it that way.
But is there a way that we can get it off the battlefield, which I think it has to be the turn here, right? We have to use this Wrath of the Skies. It's not going to be great in this matchup, so we're going to really realistically just use it as a 1-for-1 in this circumstances. But unfortunately, the shields will be down for another turn, which means us to the mercy of whatever YungDingo is going to do, and does have enough mana to bring it back out the graveyard for another turn if needs be, plus keep restocking his hand because this One Ring. This game might just be over already.
Yeah, and you can see this is exactly what Mason was trying to do earlier before. Just start playing Flages from your graveyard for value, force your opponent to spend resources. You're still getting a little bit of the ETB damage off as your prize from Dingo's perspective. But now it's just like, Dingo's drawing 6 cards off of the One Ring. And I think at this point, Mason is just so buried. There is a world where Mason top decks another copy of the One Ring in this exact instance. Surprisingly, Dingo just hasn't seen any counter spells or Force of Negation. So I'm not saying there's hope, but there's hope.
Oh, all that Surveil lands as well. Okay. Big top deck here for Mason is needed. Dingo going to go to discard. Subtlety is not it. That is a turn too late. Can we take the hit? If we take the hit, that's going to be 9 damage to face, plus the Flage in hand, or the multiple Flages in hand. That would be lethal. Mason might just have to fire off this Flage here just to get the free damage.
Well, yeah. The problem also, too, is that we don't have red. 1 red to cast it on the front half, 2 red to cast it on the way back. So it's not looking great. I mean, we can hold the Force of Negation here for maybe something super crazy or like Subtlety, but Flage, in play from Dingo's side, has our 3/3 body covered. So this is looking quite grim for the father himself. We'll see what he can do about it. Plus, I mean, there's still 2 more games here. These matches go long. I was actually going to say, when you're trying to figure out how these games typically go, I feel especially in game 1 with how polarized blue-white decks are when you build them, right? Control decks in general, right? Half of their cards are really good against the stack, half of their cards are really good against the battlefield, and then their threats are generally good against, removal spells and things like that. So, sometimes the game 1 can be a coin toss. We see Dingo decisively, well, okay, it's funny I say that because he lost the coin toss, but now he's actually winning the important one. Games 2 and 3 are where it's going to get pretty exciting, though. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's coming off this first match. It is whoever can resolve the One Ring, and once it's on the battlefield, it's pretty much sticking there. And This is when we're seeing multiple phages getting fired off here. That's 3 damage, dropping Mason down to 3. Here comes another phage, going to be forced to use this subtlety here. That's going to keep us around for another turn because we do not have a counter spell in hand just yet. You have a lot of Garang discharge though, so that subtlety is definitely not sticking around for any longer. But what can we do? We have to top deck. I think it's got to be a 1 ring here, right?
It's basically boiling down to that. One thing that you mentioned that was really important too is like how important the 1 ring is in this matchup. But like you're already at 3 life, so how many cards can you functionally even draw off of the 1 ring? Not very many.
Discharge doesn't do much. So I think we've got to go Flage back from the graveyard, but then that gains us up to 6. But then Dingo's just going to untap and fire off both of these. Well, just one of these blasts actually will be able to get it off the battlefield. Yeah, sees the writing on the wall. Mason's not going to give him the luxury of beating him up with his own card. We're going to go to our sideboards, which of course this is a 75 card mirror. Both players are fully aware of that. It's just how the cookie has crumbled tonight. But for people just tuning in and wondering, how did we get to both these players using these decks this evening?
Yeah, so we have themes every week now. We're spicing it up here on our 2nd season of MTGO Masters, where we get players to basically we give them some guidance. You say, hey, let's get you to think a little bit. Put your thinking cap on. Bring some really sweet decks here. This week's theme was revisiting Pro Tour Modern Horizons 3. And what we asked is for each player to bring 3 decks. And over the course of today, players have played decks with the stipulation being you can't play a deck more than once. And now we're here finally in the very last round. These players this is their 3rd time playing. So by process of elimination, this is what they've got left. And, you know, I was going to say it's going to be a pretty grueling 60-minute control mirror. But Dingo did kind of make fast work. And I think that's largely in part due to the speed with which a card like Flage can actually end games. And that is something that I am grateful for. So thank you, Mason, in your design.
I'm really interested in looking at how players are sideboarding here. They're not too different in how they're sideboarding right now. I'm trying to find if there's any complete differences. It looks like there might be one Wrath left in over on Mason's side. Maybe wants an option to try and clear a couple of things off the battlefield if it does get gummed up with creatures. But of course, this isn't really a creature match. It's going to be reliant on spells and card draw. And looking at these opening hands, looks like Mason's already down to 6. Keep it. Oh, did we keep it a 1 lander? I suppose can you get away with that in a mirror?
That's what I'm talking about. That's guts, nerves, and the resolve of steel here. Okay, look, let's be honest, right? Mason kept a 1 lander. Dingo's got a 2 lander. They're both pretty guilty, but Mason's gonna find the island here thanks to the Thundering Falls. And yeah, we're just all things are coming up. Mason with this opener. We just need 1 more land and coin toss going in our way, and it might just be lights out.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love the riskiness of it. You know, as I say, both these decks, they're not aggressive. They're not going to get creatures in the battlefield early and start applying damage to each other's life total. So we can, even if we miss a land, we can
absolutely shameless. The 2 of them, I will say right now.
All right, my friend. That come from that. Make sure everyone knows it's fully aware that come from NZMTG's mouth, not Will Hall's mouth. As we see, it's a fairy on the stack, counterspell dealing with it, and this is the scary bit, right? If we just go land player own to fairy. That's huge. This is going to force the 2-for-1 for everyone on Mason's side with this subtlety.
Yeah, I agree, but I like the way that Mason is sequencing this because now, you know, he's tapped out of his Teferi. Dingo's probably going to put this Teferi on top. I mean, maybe if you really want that 4th land drop, you could take the risk, put it on the bottom, try to draw another land here. But that means that invert polarity from Mason's side is primed and ready. And so the question is, Mason,
oh my word.
Are you better than YungDingo at tossing a coin and calling it?
Oh, didn't play it.
That's a plot twist.
That is a plot twist. I suppose holding up both, not only a counter spell, but also force negation is going to be pretty good here. So now we're firing it off. And now
heads or tails? Heads or tails?
Heads.
Tails never fails. Tails never fails.
Heads. My screen froze. I can't see anything. Oh,
he's got a subtlety his own Teferi?
Oh, baby, sign me up.
That's hot.
I like it. I'm all about it. Yeah, nice coin flip, flipping coins by yourself, whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, I like it. We still got a game. That's more big brain than I thought was going to happen in that scenario. I was just hoping for the right flip of the coin, but the follow-up play is going to be a one ring. But instead, we've got a forced negation to deal with that. These players are firing on all cylinders.
I like the way you dance here. Okay, this is sweet.
Oh, and then he goes into this. This is great sequencing by both players, forcing them to have it on both sides, and it is paying off. And it hits the land from the Teferi tick down.
All right, I'm going to confess to you, though. I will say one thing about this mirror is that because of the effectiveness, the efficiency of a card like Galvanic Discharge, these Planeswalkers, Teferi Time Raveler, it's not actually like the end-all, be-all haymaker that you're really looking to fight, stabilize, and protect. Because you're going to see what happens right here, right? Papa's coming onto the play, and yeah, Teferi's leaving.
I'm like... Speak to me about this line here. Like in my head, I feel like I want to do the Galvanic Discharge to get rid of the Teferi, keeping up subtlety. Is there any reason behind I shouldn't be doing that? Is this just a better line setting up for next turn? What's kind of going through his head? Oh, he also hits the Flage off the Surveil into the Plowright on the other side.
That's actually a pretty sweet Surveil.
Oh my goodness. Oh no, what if we steal Mason's own Flage and beat him up with it?
I'm more nervous about this. Are we about to hardcast Lorien revealed?
No,
my goodness, I can't. These coin tosses, man. These coin tosses.
Heads. Are we going to see a subtlety on our own Flage here?
Oh, God. Oh!
He's
hovering over the subtlety. You won't. You won't.
I'm sweating.
I mean, I'm wearing a jacket, so that's why.
Oh, he stole it. He stole Mason's own Flage. Oh, I can just hear the banter going off already between them.
Dingo's like, watch me. You know what's actually funny too, because of Consign to Memory, I was thinking about this. Consign is so good in this matchup. Not only does it counter your opponent's best card, but it lets you put Flage into play because you can just counter the evoke trigger the first time around. Now, this, I guess it's not the worst. You do have Galvanic Discharge. You can kill the Flage, but now you're just going down on... Well, actually, are you even going down that many cards? Because, like, you cast Flage from your graveyard. Maybe you're okay, actually. I mean, who cares? Fireworks. It was a pretty sweet like highlight reel. But
those opening turns were amazing. We're going to see this in upkeep right now. Speak to people, for newer players just getting into Modern or not really used to these sort of control moves. Why are we doing this in the upkeep of my opponent's turn?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So it's about controlling when we want our opponent to spend their mana, right? Like if we played it on our main phase, opponent could go counterspell and they would untap on their turn with all of their mana. This way we're saying like, hey, you may still counter my spell, but you don't get to do anything else this turn. And yeah, it's tight mechanics. I like it a lot here. This is what I'm talking about. Check out this play right here. Subtlety on the Flage. Used to be, when you subtlety a creature, you're so happy. But now, like, you just redraw the Flage, kill the subtlety, and the value is gone. So it's really interesting to see how this Titan of Fire's Fury has really just like changed the texture of not just like Magic, like Modern in general, but even these control mirrors.
Yeah, it's great. It's kind of like the finisher of choice now. And we're going to go fetching in response. Look at what our top card is. Decide if we want to put this Flage on top or bottom. Remember, we do already have one in the graveyard. So I imagine it's going to go bottom. But, we'll see. Like everyone else, I think it was just... did we keep the card? Yeah, we kept the card on top as well. What sort of cards would you keep on top in this instance? One Ring, Teferi, Counterspell, maybe?
Yeah, those are the cards that I'm most excited about, I think. I don't know if there's too much all else that really matters. Maybe like another Teferi. Like, yeah, like you pretty much nailed it, right? Just anything that in this low resource state can take over the game, right? I'm not really interested in cards like Tune the Narrative. I'm not interested in more removal spells. Speaking of cards that can take over the game here, this is it. The secret 5-mana mode for Lorien revealed, which is its actual casting cost. Great in the mirror. And
oof, double rings being hit there. Okay, love to see it. Get in there for 3 points of damage. And Mason's life total has dropped quite low, down to 7 at this point. With Flage floating around in the graveyard, could be a lot. Why did we top deck a land there? Because we did leave it on top.
Yeah, probably just to keep up all of our spells, I mean, Consign plus Galvanic Discharge. Oh, do we need the double red or the double white? We couldn't cast Flage, right?
Yes, couldn't cast double. We need double white. You're right. So Flage coming back here. That's going to deal with the subtlety, I imagine. But Mason's got the answer in hand, plus multiple one rings. Do have answer on the other side though for Dingo. But these players are firing on all cylinders in this game.
Did you see that? Dingo let the subtlety slide. He went for the face.
Oh, I like
he took it personally.
He's got discharge in hand. I guess the discharge can get this subtlety off the battlefield anytime he needs to.
Yeah, you're also at 22, so you don't even really care.
This is going to be interesting over on Mason's side. A few decisions here. I feel like that Celestial Purge, yeah, I would be firing it off right now as well. That is going to deal with this Blade, and it's going to exile.
Paints a big picture for the viewers here. Really shows you that Mason is absolutely prioritizing revolving the Celestial Purge over resolving or getting one rings into play. I mean, I guess that makes a lot of sense, right? Like you don't want to risk your Celestial Purge getting counterspelled, even if it means if you resolve your one ring. That's tricky. That's very interesting.
From the graveyard.
Yeah, yeah.
So the way that you read it there was probably the correct line. The way I read that turn was Mason refuses to lose to his own card.
Oh.
At all costs, I cannot let Dingo win with my own card. And now we're just going to start drawing a few lands out of Surveil lands. We only play 3 of them, 1 of each in the Jeskai colors in these decks. So it just has to be land and go. Mason, of course, just drawing on all cylinders now.
Check out that damage, though.
Here's 12 damage going to the face. We do have a discharge, though. Not a lot of energy, so it will only take out the subtlety.
Do it. You won't, Mason. Oh, he didn't. Okay. All right, fine.
Yeah, you called it. You asked him not to. He didn't do it.
Fair. I got exactly what I asked for, and I'm just mad right now.
Now, what do you hold up all this counter magic, or do you try and fire off one of the one rings here? You feel like you must be quite...
to resolve another spell this game. Oh yeah. Not only does Dingo not get to resolve another spell this game, I get to laugh about it afterwards, right? That's the mentality that I would have if I was in Mason's seat.
Well, if we hit a Flage off the top, 1, 2, 3, we could cast it one ring. Unfortunately, isn't going to resolve, and that is going to be the game we're going to go into a game number 3. But it was a great draw if on the other side we didn't have any of these awesome counter spells, one of them being Force of Negation. That might just be enough to scoop this up, and it is. And we're going to go to a game 3 here in match number 5 of this evening. Of course, winner of this goes to advances to the winners pod loser. They're going to be joining mine in the losers pod. Everything to play for here. Is there any more sideboarding going to happen?
I can't really imagine it. I am interested to see what is left behind here, right? So all the Wraths came out. One copy of Consign didn't come in. I can understand it. I think in this matchup, like, Consign does hit a card like the One Ring, but outside of that, there's not like too much utility. I guess it is a pseudo counterspell for subtlety. There's no leyline binding in this matchup. Yeah, it's really tricky. And this is also the game too where Dingo actually got to invert polarity on. Did he just keep a one lander? Sorry, I know
get to 2 land. He's got planes.
Oh. Okay. Oh, okay. The Arid Mesa is literally in play. My bad. Okay, you're right.
Looks like it's the new Assassin's Creed lands as well. You can see. I don't know what the character's called, but it's a really cool picture of him just sat there on the edge, ready to swan dive into something.
Yeah, a wagon of hay.
A wagon of hay. Right. Looking at these opening hands, we've got a little bit of an interaction on both sides. I think we're just going to see land go for a lot of it until one person fires off one card. Last game we saw the card was Teferi. Counterspell drawn there for YungDingo. That's going to be great for him. Also, while hitting our land drops every turn, so it's going well for both players right now. Who is going to be the first one to fire off a spell and start this stack of counter magic, which of course you love seeing?
Yeah, I think honestly, the fact that Dingo has drawn lands like 4 turns in a row is a huge boon for him, because otherwise this game would be. I mean, the worst part is that 2 of the 6 or 7 cards in his hand are galvanic discharges. Like, those basically don't count. If you're ever casting that spell to get rid of something, the damage is far gone. Like, it's been done. So he's gotten very, very, very. I have to emphasize this. Very lucky to draw all these lands. And okay, well, here's Teferi. So now the question is,
no, I wouldn't be firing it off yet. I'd keep it up. I mean, there's no reason to right now, right? Like I'm happy to play this land go type sketch, but now both players are out of lands. So dispute that now drawing that might make me want to try and fire off a Teferi. How punished can I get? On the flip side, obviously, we know about the one ring. Both players have got priorities now. Both people got counter magic, but Mason is the one hitting every land drop on each turn now as a mountain is drawn for the turn.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me here is I kind of wish Dingo kind of played the Teferi last turn. And the reason I say that is because your mana is just really not cooperating with you here. This basic plains is kind of causing you a lot of pain here. Meanwhile, I mean, Mason is just he's saying, Drago, here's a mana. Drago, here's a mana. And soon Mason's going to be able to hardcast multiple single counter spells. Like you can pay 4 mana for the subtlety plus 3 mana for the force negation or the invert polarity. And that's where the game starts to really settle in someone's favor over the other, right? This is a huge mana discrepancy already. Both players are going to go to discard right now because we didn't keep hands that had lands in our openers. And
well, that's the scary bit, right? If my opponent's not playing lands and having to go to discard, then you know that the hand's pretty stacked. They're toying it up for we're going to get that one big turn when someone's going to try and fire something off that they think that they can resolve. There'll be a huge counter battle, and by the end of it, we don't know how the smoke will clear. Also, we want to shout out to YungDingo, big brain in it, and basically you think he's just discarding cards. No, he's fueling that fellage that he's going to be drawing later on. Just you wait. This is his long-term game plan. Is feed it. But here we go. We're going to start off with a Teferi coming down. What is going to be the response here from Mason? It is going to be a subtlety coming down here. Now, why are we doing subtlety over potentially any of our counter magic in hand?
I really like the way that Mason is choosing to sequence out his counters here. Subtlety, first of all, inherently when you hardcast it, it's 2 for 1. You get your value. You can see here one person is going up a card, the other person is going down a card, and it's a function of how much mana is being spent. But most importantly for me, I love that he's leading with this in the face of 2 galvanic discharges being sent to the graveyard, right? He knows, he's literally playing the same deck, that there's a limited amount of removal. Yes, Flage does exist, but when you send 2 cards to the graveyard that are galvanic discharge, probably indicates that you don't have a Flage to put in the graveyard, and probably also indicates that, you're kind of fine here with throwing a 3/3 body into play here. Teferi's actually going to resolve after the mystical dispute, so we actually have a game. I am excited to see where this goes.
Well, we picked the line we saw. We worked out we had enough counter magic for certain spells. It was great. Subtlety went to the top, of course, from the other subtlety. But Mason does have enough mana to not only galvanic blast but also flage this turn to get it off the battlefield. Could go for the one ring if we wanted to go that route. Looks like we're going to go discharge. Maybe we're just taking the Teferi down enough so it can't bounce our one ring and try and gain our value that way.
Oh, I like this a lot, right? That's pretty classy. Galvanic discharge on your Teferi and only spend 2 of the energy. I mean, it makes total sense, but sure does make me happy to see it.
Are we going to go for a Flage turn? So we draw a card here off our land, and that puts the 5th card type in the graveyard. We then get Flage back out the graveyard, shoot the Teferi down. I think that's what we're going to see.
Okay.
Not only are we gaining card advantage, we're also utilizing, the half card of Flage being in the graveyard. And of course, it's Mason Clark that's casting this Flage, and he wants to win with that Flage more than basically anything in this deck.
Yeah, and this goes back to the point that I made earlier, right? Like, look at this card like Teferi the Time Raveler. It's just not that great in this matchup. Because you tick down, okay, cool, but the longevity on this card between Galvanic Discharge and Flage, which is recurring and recastable, Teferi doesn't really last that long here. And there's also a huge stacks worth of counter magic that you have to kind of fight through. So you're seeing right now here in this scenario.
Yeah, Mason's under the decision. Do I want to use Force Negation or Subtlety here? And decides to not use either.
Whoa.
Mason, Dingo ticking up Teferi here, which has got to be a show of strength in some instance here, because leaving up the purge and the counter spell. Here comes Celestial Purge. That's going to get.
This is a huge punish here for Mason Clark. I mean, he played around counterspell, kind of assumed I haven't seen one this game. Very likely that there is a copy in Dingo's hand, but Dingo was like, surprise! It's Celestial Purge, and that is backbreaking here, getting rid of the Flage that kind of was this defining, the amount of advantage that Mason had. But I guess he found Teferi. He's got the One Ring in play now. So ignore everything that I just said, because now it looks like Mason's just doing the thing.
Look at that hand of Dingo. You say Teferi is not great in this matchup. Once it sticks and resolves like this, Dingo doesn't have a hand anymore. That hand does nothing in the face of Teferi, and no ways of getting off. Two Gavak discharges in the bin already. Of course, this wasn't the match. I'd be surprised if there is even any more of them left in the deck. So we've got to rely on Flages now to be able to get that Teferi off the battlefield. And if Mason just keeps ticking up with this hand that he's got already, I think it's going to be enough for him to win this match.
Yeah, I think now we're kind of at the point where both players are in the boxing ring. Both players have Teferis, so they're just like mindlessly punching each other. Can I land this threat? No. All right, well, here's another one. Can I land this one? No. Well, then here's another one. And now Mason Clark has come ahead here. Now Mason Clark is poised to win, and now Mason Clark has Teferi on the One Ring. And sorry, Dingo, but I think he's going to send you to the losers pod.
Yeah, I think I'm agreeing here. I look at this hand subtleties, triple force negations, plus a tune to, get a few cards deeper. Counter spell drawn for the turn. More cards drawn off the One Ring. One of them blast, one of them another counter spell, and a dispute found as well. Yet nothing is resolving by YungDingo for the rest of this game. But we need to fill our graveyard up. We need to get that Flage out the graveyard to win. We can't give Dingo more draws, more chances of trying to, oh, well, we're not going to do it. We're racking it up right now. That is it. That was game 3, yeah. So we're going to head back to the booth. Congratulations to Mason on taking that one down.